Hello again. It's great to have the privilege to speak to everybody here. And here this particular moment, you've heard a couple of the speakers mention Dascoin, and so we thought that it would be a good opportunity just to share with everybody how we got to this point and what's behind this whole effort of Dascoin. And so I just want to share with the crowd my own personal background. I began in the financial services industry to get a deeper understanding of all things financial investment related. And then I gravitated to the technology industry and spent many years in the technology space. And what we have happening right now with this cryptocurrency blockchain phenomenon is very interdisciplinary. And that's something that I've always really enjoyed. I saw when I was working in the financial services industry that there is a real deep-seated problem in how the systems that are in place, the monetary systems, is working. It was one way to go. We talked about it earlier, the centralized approach. It was very valuable for the years that it's been used, and we owe that model a lot. But we are changing into a different moment in time, and there are different possibilities available now. And this is, again, thanks to technology. Now we can start to distribute the wealth that can be created, the value that can be created, can be shared among the people creating it. And I saw weakness in the centralized approach. I saw abuse in the centralized approach, and it really was, frankly, very disturbing to me. I got deeply involved in it in the mid-2000s, and it bothered me that there wasn't a good solution. And I did gravitate towards something called complementary currencies. This was before Bitcoin. There were complementary currencies that were intriguing to me because they were systems of people coming together and using a system rather than a central force to modulate the value exchange. I liked that idea. I thought that was a really interesting idea. And again, this was before Bitcoin came onto the scene. So when Bitcoin arrived, things started to percolate on that because that was a really interesting element that played into this theme that I was seeing. And so as I was looking at the pioneer at Bitcoin, I thought that it's a great first step. It's a great first step. That is the right, that opened up the world. But there were limitations. There exist limitations. And I like to analyze systems and figure out, where's the optimal path. So the motivations for me in the beginning were, certainly you had to have security. Security is paramount. But then it was, how do you scale something like this? How do you scale to the mainstream something like Bitcoin, something like cryptocurrency? Is there a way to keep a more stability into the system? Can you make it so that it's more stable? Very, very important was what is going to create a sustainable system? And so my mind starts going long term. Like I think, how do you create a system that is going to be well positioned for the variances, the changes that are coming? And I saw that the current system didn't allow that. Finally, I wanted, we were looking for a system that's simple, because simplicity is the key for almost everything. It's very important. Now, in decentralized systems, there is, and Bitcoin is the classic example, there is this idea that code is law. And ironically, it's very decentralized, Bitcoin, but its birth was highly centralized, meaning that the coder, the programmer, Satoshi Nakamoto, set down the code in this moment of creation, and until just last August, it didn't change. And we've known for many years that in this digital revolution, iteration is how things get to, that's how things progress, iteration. It's always got to be a response to change in the marketplace. Well, Bitcoin hasn't iterated, and so I saw that. Now, that there's some good things to that, don't get me wrong. It makes it, there's something very secure and comforting about no change, but it is also something very limiting. And so that was a factor that I really thought needed to be addressed. Where we went with it was the reverse. The thought was, law is code. We wanted to encode law into a system. So it ends up that to do that, you got Bitcoin had the first moment, and then it stayed, and it doesn't change. Very difficult to change. They can change, very difficult. We wanted a system that was more responsive. So we become, if law is code, how do you make the laws? That's the kind of system that we needed to create, was a system that could create laws. It needed to be adaptable and responsive. You had to have the right structures to work with. And it was my view that balance was very, very important. Balance is just a theme that I've seen throughout systems that lead to sustainability. And so balance ecosystems, the word in general, they tend to be, they're kind of self-balancing, and in the wild, like that ecosystem, no one's modulating the weather. It's like that it's decentralized, but there's a balancing mechanism to it. So we needed to find that. It puts you immediately into a governance space where you got to figure out, so how we were going to create law. So how do you do that? We went over how the drawbacks to the authoritarian model. If you swing it too far over, you've got the problems that come with anarchy. You're empowering everybody, but there's no structure. Nobody's got any order to this, right? And so you run that risk. When the pendulum swings, you run the risk that you can overshoot it. So we wanted, again, going for balance, we were drawn to an idea of an alliance, a consortium. People that were, and entities that were working together, but no one entity was in control. So in this vision of what was DAS going to become, very important was this idea of authenticity and authentication. The identification of people within a system is very important. It has an impact on how people interact with the system. It's safer. And so our belief was authentication is very important. The security, stability, scalability, sustainability, I've gone over that. Those were very important elements. Again, always looking further out to say, how are we going to sustain this? Empowerment through the distribution of power needed to be embedded in this. And then again, equilibrium, the balance. We needed the balance. And ultimately, it's the idea of creating a technological structure that integrates trust rather than eliminate trust. Satoshi Nakamoto was interested in creating a trustless system, and it's a brilliant idea, and it's a very interesting experiment that's gone extremely well. Our idea is to integrate, adapt trust to this new paradigm. That's our intent. The mission of this entire collection of this alliance, this ecosystem, is to democratize prosperity by establishing and maintaining equilibrium. It's that magical equilibrium that we are looking to first establish and then maintain. So we've created an ecosystem that spans the world already. There's 11 of the entities that are involved shown on here, and it's growing. And you'll hear about Das Financial growing thing. It's a growing ecosystem. We have a community of visionaries. They're in this room, a lot of them. Some of you are new to this situation, but it's these visionaries that are seeing the future and building it and growing with us that are a huge part of what this model is all about. There's this governance system, and for that we looked at, it's probably closest resembles a Westminster type of model. And that is important for ensuring this equilibrium, having some checks and balances, never having any controlling influence that's not in check or and being balanced. We have a secure network of hardware spanning the globe. It will increase in size and complexity, but it is owned by this network. It's an operating system that's built on blockchain technology. And ultimately, what we want to deliver on this is a curation of the best-in-class applications. So we have the infrastructure, we have the visionaries, the community of people that see, and we want to leverage those strengths in offering applications. So NetLeaders, again, community of visionaries. It's an open network. It's very decentralized in that sense. There's a central body to it, but the network is open. Anybody can come and become a part of it. So that's part of our balance of central and decentral going on. There's a built-in incentive. John talked about it a bit, where our view is we believe that the network should be self-incentivizing. There should be a mechanism very different from the central model of Facebook and how they've created a network. Instead, our view is that you reward people commensurate to their impact on the growth of the network. And this system is set up very similar to the Bitcoin system. The system is set up to automatically reward those that are serving the system, providing services to the system. And ultimately, it's an educational orientation to this. Ultimately, this whole thing is about educating about the new paradigm so that we can begin enjoying the rewards of this paradigm. There is a better way to orient our value exchange, and this is a better way. You're going to hear a gentleman come up here, and a lot of you, we've been talking about, there is a lot of DOS terms that we've used, and the cloud is, we're calling the DOS cloud just the physical network. There's a virtual private network that I referred to. There's hardware there that this is the physical aspect of our world. There's The software side of it and what keeps it all together, that's the operating system. That's what we're really referring to when you hear DOSNet. DOSNet, it's this whole software, it's a blockchain-based operating system. And there's the capacity, and this is what's different about, there's a capacity for parallel blockchains to exist in this ecosystem. And there's a lot that can be done when you can connect these parallel blockchains. And you heard Professor Sulumiak come up here and talk about the CRIA-free idea that can run on this ecosystem. There's a multiplicity of different blockchains that can be running on this system. And a fully decentralized system cannot do that. You know, that's a limitation that we saw. Ultimately, we want apps. We want applications that build off of we want products and services that are building off of the native capabilities of this network. So, you know, there's ways of leveraging this. We have effectively a VPN, the storage, the processing, the hosting. But ultimately, it's about blockchain services and smart contracts that really is why this is in place. Some of you may know of the game. It's a game called Minecraft. And Minecraft allows people to build that green square there. It's a virtual world where you create with these squares and build an entire world. Our world is a little like that, only the virtual squares are more, they're cycles. Called cycles. Cycles referring to a completed circuit of a circuit board. And everything in the realm of networking and data processing is built on cycles. And so we are envisioning an entire world built on, you know, think of them as the magnetic, it's like Legos, but it's more of a circular thing in my view, almost like electrons working together. And you can form them, you can build things with them. There's an entire world. And with every license in our system, more cycles come into existence. And this is capacity for us to build out these new worlds. The license, Daniel touched on this idea, and our licenses are just basically doing three things. They are authenticating the users, so we have an authenticated network, and they're authorizing the license holder to begin their adventure in this new world. And the capacity is cycles. So they get, depending on the level of license, they get a certain amount of the capacity to start, you know, in essence, build within this world. I talked about this Westminster moment element. This is very different than, you know, there's a lot of people that would like to think that the decentralization at the extreme is the answer. And our view has been that a proper governance structure is needed. And we do that in a very interesting way. And at the end of this, I will call up the board of Dascoin, and I just want you to get a sense of the people that are involved in the limited decisions. So we create a system where there's very limited powers in anything that's centralized. We want to decentralize as much as possible, but as much as practical too. It has to be practical. And so this is that equilibrium, and we think that this is lacking in many, many efforts that are going on in this space, because people are seeing it with blinders that, oh, it's got to be completely decentralized. And we believe in the decentralist goals and ideals, and you could see that played out in our digital wallet system. Very decentralized ideal. No one can come confiscate your coins. But in general, we believe that there needs to be a system of checks and balances, and so we've incorporated this into our system. Think of this as this is a very complex, and we won't go into this, but what's here is almost like the Declaration of Independence of sorts of our ecosystem. These are aspects of our system that we believe are very important. And those aspects at the core of all of this is trust. That is, it's through the blockchain and through the governance mechanism that we build trust, and trust needs to be in the middle of the whole thing. But then and surrounding that trust, there are some innovations and different features to our system that are very important and that make for a very effective system in that's what we see. Just a couple of these I'll touch on is, one is proof of license. Our consensus is not proof of work or proof of stake. Instead, what we've done is we were interested in getting the efficiencies that come through assigning authority to certain servers, in essence. So instead of having all this work happening the way it does in the proof of work model, our view was you could basically authorize a few different master nodes into the system, and they're being constantly needed to show their license. In essence, they've been designated, and then it's random from that. But the way our system works is first you have to identify. Our servers have to authenticate themselves, so it does carry through. Not only is every holder authenticated, but the servers are authenticated. So it becomes a very important security element, and it also does incredible things to the efficiency of the overall system. So it allows that efficiency that we gain from not spinning servers and from not consuming electricity, we end up using to incentivize the growth community that John spoke about. That's where that comes from. So the efficiencies that are created are then parlayed into a growth engine. And we think that engine, very much like a governance model, that growth engine, that marketing engine, is not a prominent element in the vast majority of cryptocurrencies out there. And we think it's an incredible advantage. Another huge advantage is our distribution model. So there's a lot of, and I will particularly pick on proof of stake models, which, again, that's the consensus model, but ultimately within a proof of stake type of arrangement, there is a distribution of coins, and there's little value that is recognized. There's too many things that can go wrong. There's nothing that's really, there's a lot of self-dealing that we didn't like. We think that there's, again, if we need equilibrium for this to be sustainable, we need that for things to be issued, the cycles that we're building our world with, you can only have cycles commensurate with the amount of value that you're bringing into the system. So that, again, we were looking for an automated mechanism to maintain equilibrium, and this is something that we found in a proof of value approach to distribution. Now we've had a couple people speak on our DasPay model is also extremely important to us because we think it's a way to provide utility and the liquidity to our whole model. Initially, while we're making this transition, we've figured out a way through a wonderful partner that we can use the Visa MasterCard rails to allow that our currency can be used and accepted without the merchants even needing to be approached or know about it. It's happening underneath. And it's from the benefit of incredible technology that we're able to offer that. And we find that it's a very big point. In general, as we stand back and look at the landscape, there's really, this is a simplified version, but it's looking at two axes. And on one, it's this whole kind of the governance axis. It's the decentralized to the centralized. On the other, it's a openness versus a completely permissioned. And you can look at the entire industry and get a sense of where people sit. And for the most part, most of your cryptocurrencies are tending to be decentralized and open. Most of your fiat currencies tend to be permissioned and centralized. And we find that there's very few people in our neighborhood, which we consider that place of equilibrium, a balanced place. And frankly, I'm amazed by it. I think that it's very short-sighted of some of the efforts that are going on within this community. I think there's almost a religious type of zeal that is preventing people from seeing a more balanced approach. And again, I would argue that for sustainability, which is what we're wanting, balance is just paramount. It's so important to have balance. So that's what we've been looking for. So we think with that balance, we end up being able to, underneath this entire ecosystem, this is not about just a currency. Again, we are about an ecosystem. But at the core of that ecosystem is a currency, is a digital currency. And it's represented in that flower of life, the circles all intertwined. That's this balance that we seek, and that's the balance that we're looking to cultivate in this system. And it ultimately produces an authenticated network, this greater utility. It's a better performing network, better efficiency, the wider distribution. I mean, it just has many factors. We can deliver enhanced security, the greater liquidity, robust ecosystem. We are all about our ecosystem, and we, just like the governance, we do not see enough ecosystem in the competitive landscape. So, and one of the most important elements is this last one of, we believe that, and this has been shown in recent news, that there is looming regulation. We believe that there needs to be regulation in this space. It's imperative. And so there needs to be the ability to comply with that regulation. We have a model, thanks to the board and thanks to a consortium-based ecosystem, that can comply. And we embrace and are interested in engaging with enlightened government bodies that are moving into this space, and they recognize the need to have solid, enlightened regulations. We've had some regulations that I think so far have missed the mark, and one being in the United States. They had some legislation called bit license, and I think kind of tended to stifle innovation. And so we welcome that. Our model is made for it. So just a little bit about where we're going. And ultimately, we believe that there's the potential to serve that you can live your business life within our ecosystem. So we're looking for a blockchain-based business network, and we're really focused on entrepreneur, small business people. We believe that's what makes the world go round. We also believe, through our members already showing this, that women have been not well represented at the table of, in a lot of ways, throughout a lot of countries. There's some countries that have been excellent about the integration of women, others that have not. And so because of this paradigm shift that we've talked about, it is an opportunity for those that are not as empowered to step up and become more empowered, because our system will support that. Our system is designed to support countries and populations that are not fully getting their fill in the existing system. That's why it's very exciting what's happening here, because there's going to be a lot of opportunity for these populations that aren't getting their proper voice, and that haven't because of dynamics from the previous system. That there's a reason for, some people get so conditioned and think, well, that's just the way things are. But that is not the truth, in my opinion. I believe that the system creates a lot of those things. So if this, you hear about the man, the system, there is something to it, I believe, that the system, but now we're embarking on a new era where we are the system. We can be the system with a model like this. With a model like this, where no one entity, no one person has the full power to do this or that. No, it's an alliance. It's people working with people, and that's the kind of system that we think will sustain. Millennials, they've been left out of things. They graduate loaded up with debt, and walk into a world where the jobs aren't, they're kind of drying up for them, and the real estate is way up. So we think it's another place. We're a place for millennials, and we believe, as Gene had said, that it's educating the youth about this big shift. There's a big shift happening. So we want to have a full spectrum of curated applications. So think of it more like the iPhone or so the App Store. Curation we want to take that one step further. Curation, so curate applications to make them super simple to actually integrate into your world to use. Smart contracts, that's an area of automated contracts where the code is the law. Okay, we can incorporate that into our model. We're about law as code. But once you create the code, it is, there's a predictability to having smart contracts in the system that are automated and delivering on what their promises are. So you've also heard about ICOs and these new tokens. We're really strong proponents of tokens that are functional, that play a role. And our cycles are going to be playing the role for writing to the blockchain. You're going to need to use one cycle to write to the blockchain. This is something that's coming in our world. You can use cycles for other things besides that, but they can be used to write to the blockchain. We want to create. There's numerous ideas for ICOs, and you'll hear about one of them later today, that are going to be on this platform, in this ecosystem. We see the ecosystem being extremely vibrant. It is a popcorn popper of innovation, really, and that's what's coming. So I want to leave on a final note about, and I'm going to come back up and talk about this. We are embarking on a very major moment in the history of this ecosystem. And I want people to think about this shift that's happening. And so a lot of times, what this system is doing is creating a new way of holding value and exchanging value. And so I want people to consider that, we have it ingrained in our minds that value is represented. We can't help but do it. To determine value, we go to our regular, our measurement of value, which In Japan, it's the yen. In Europe, it's the euro for some countries. And it's whatever what is your yardstick for measurement? That's one thing. But then ask yourself, okay, this is what I know. How well is it holding that value? Because as I talked about earlier, the centralized system is very outdated. Let's consider water. Let's use this analogy. Water is the value. If you ask me, the fiat monetary system is like holding water with a rusty, old, leaking pail, a rusty, leaking bucket of water. Think about that. Then juxtapose that to, this is a gleaming new system. This is a system that's optimized for the digital future that's ahead. So it is something to consider that, of course, we want to check and make sure that I can translate my gleaming new unit with a rusty, leaking bucket. But it's just something, the question becomes, what in the future, where do we hold value? And this is what's going to ultimately happen. So I'm just planting the seed that ultimately, like Thomas Gresham had said in Gresham's Law, the good money is basically, bad money is going to force out the good money. So that basically meaning you're going to hold on to value that is being well held or even increasing in value. Anything that's not valuable, that's going down in value, you're going to spend. That's Gresham's Law. It's a very famous law. I believe that we are looking at a situation where we are measuring our value in a rusty, leaking bucket. RLBs, that's the mode of perspective here. And what we're offering in this system, and this is going to become more and more apparent, is a safe and a growing place for you to hold value, for you to exchange value. And so this is, I leave this idea as something that should be considered when, again, we're trying to get, it's a shift of paradigm. It can be very disoriented when you're shifting. People don't like change in general, but shift paradigms, then you really start to lose your way. And so this is, I think it's really just a wise idea to question the heritage of our very known and something that's very familiar in our monetary system, the fiat currencies. I just think it's in everyone's interest to understand what's underneath our sense of value. And that's what I think that can be radically changed, and we can finally get into a realm of value exchange that will allow us to really enjoy a much higher level of prosperity. So I thank you for your time, and thank you. I want to call up, I had mentioned in the earlier remarks that we have this amazing governance model that we talk about it in the white paper. I want everyone here to see the people that are behind it. And so I would like to call up Terry O'Hearn, who's one of our executives. Lim Soon-Hak, who is one of our non-executive board members, board directors, and Eberhard Wedekind. Right now, this is the core of our board, and we have these gentlemen are. Terry's a co-founder in this whole realm. We've worked very closely together. We've attracted Sunhak and Eberhard, through their perceptions of what we're doing in our model, and we've attracted, I would argue, giants of industry that are recognizing our model and attracted to what we're doing. And I want to applaud these gentlemen here for what they're doing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Are you on? Can you put Terry's mic on? Okay. Okay. We want to take this opportunity. We have something really special for people that we've had this level of a board, and yet in the white paper, it's very clear that we ultimately. Oh, there we go. We ultimately are going to have a board of. We think optimal is 7 individuals. So.
Check. So, first of all, that was an amazing talk that Michael did earlier. Michael's been stellar to work with. I'm going to talk a little bit later about a few things, but another round of applause for Michael.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Michael.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
That's very good.
Thanks. And as Michael said, these 2 gentlemen, if you haven't had a chance to talk with them, please do. They are giants of industry. They're global business magnets. They have an incredible wealth of knowledge that it's such a pleasure just to get to spend a little bit of time with them, to hear their wisdom. And much of that wisdom, including the currency of trust, has come from these gentlemen. So thank you again.
Yes. Yes.
So we're at this interesting point because we actually have some things to share that wasn't in our agenda, but we thought that we'd use this opportunity, this platform, this stage, to announce that we actually have. Michael mentioned that we're moving towards 7 board of director members, and we're going to call a couple of people up on stage today. And first I want to talk about a gentleman who has a wealth of experience and knowledge. He started a university in Vietnam. He's a professor of MBA programs, PhD programs in business. He was a political appointee for the White House. He's an advisor on Asian affairs or he was an advisor on Asian affairs to the Ronald Reagan campaign. He's a regional advisor to the World Bank for Asia Pacific. It's not finished. He does extensive charitable work and has done extensive charitable work in Africa and Asia. He's a board member of the Keenan Asian Foundation. He also, very importantly, advises the Vietnamese government on gaming. He was instrumental in taking what was illegal and changing a communist country to making it be legal to have gaming enterprises there. He's a brilliant man. One of the things that I love most about him is that he has taken under his wing 138 children that he funds, feeds, takes care of from the Agent Orange program. I would love to call up Professor Augustine Vinh. Our newest board member.
Our newest board member. Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure to have.
That's going to be a short-lived title, by the way.
Congratulations.
So, yeah. Do you want some time to be the newest board member, or can we? Okay, we can move on. So, it's amazing to have Augustine, Professor Augustine, on stage with us. It's such a pleasure. If we stop there, that would be amazing. However, Michael, in his travels and through some of our Polish friends, has met an amazing woman that we're very excited and very honored to have join us. And I'll tell you a little bit about her. She's private equity and venture capital partner and founder. She's an investment and commercial banker. She's been with companies like JP Morgan Chase, Solomon Brothers, and a number of others. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's started over 20 companies. She is a business angel, and she was nominated by the European Business Angel Association to be the Business Angel of the Year. She's a global leader of tomorrow, as appointed by the World Economic Forum. She was named as one of the best managers in finance by Home and Market magazine. She's an advisor, lecturer, speaker, active board member on numerous companies. She is an absolute business force to be reckoned with throughout Europe. She was on Dragon's Den, so she was a dragon on Dragon's Den, which many of us know. I've only recently met her, but I can tell she's such an amazing person, and it's an honor to call up Anna Heika. Thank you. She's our newest board member.
So happy.
Congratulations.
What a pleasure. So, do you want to say a couple words?
I thought that it would be a great opportunity to welcome our newest board members, who we are thrilled to have these two join. And it may be, prior to introducing and allowing them to say a few things, it would be helpful, I think, to hear just a few words from our existing board members about what's drawn them to this, like how.
Yeah, multiple things. First,
Okay.
I mean, I have, in a way, a family history when it comes to database systems, and blockchain for me is one. My uncle brought the idea of database in the 60s to Germany from Berkeley and Palo Alto. So I'm a computer science guy by education. And yeah, I was interested very much in blockchain and all the miracles one day we will be able to do. That's one. The other thing is I love global businesses. I've been in global business the last 25 or even more years. And this gentleman, I think I met 7 times in my life, and every time in a different country.
Yeah.
So I thought this is not. And then the diversity now completed in the, or not yet completed, but soon. Well, people attracted me. So lots of reasons.
Yes, that's fantastic. Do you want to jump in there? Sure.
I've always been a firm believer in cryptocurrencies, and also firmly believe that cryptocurrencies would either start with complementing fiat currencies, which we know, or eventually replacing it. So why did I join the board of Dascoin? I really believe that what you're seeing in the cryptocurrency world today, Dascoin has the unique opportunity to set new standards and to lead the world in cryptocurrency. And and one other thing, I love to take on huge challenges.
Yes.
And life is a little bit getting too mundane for me, and I thought joining Dascoin board would add a little bit more spice to my life, and to take it to its greatest height, but more importantly, to unlock the full potential of what Dascoin can do.
Yes, fantastic.
Thank you.
So,
Fantastic.
so I just want to comment on the Spice Man over there. He's actually a technology giant. He he was the managing director of Compact Computers, built it from 30 million into the north of $1 billion in Asia Pacific, which is amazing.
Thank you.
But when we started our journey in 2016, and I'll show a couple of slides, our marketing journey. In 2016, we started in Kuala Lumpur, and then we went to a brief stop in Bangkok, then we went to Singapore. And Michael was speaking first, and he was up on stage getting ready, and lots of people coming in, and we were greeting people, and this gentleman comes up to me and he goes, "Hi, I'm Lim Soon Hock. I'm going to ask a lot of tough questions," and he's going to grill you.
That's true.
Yes, and I'm like,
That was true.
"Okay, I love you, but I'm scared," because other people are telling me about his background, going, "Okay," but ever since that moment, it's been a pleasure, and you have asked and challenged the status quo and brought brilliant ideas. So thank you.
Yes.
So-
Yes.
My pleasure.
Augustine, maybe
share.
you could. Oh, do you have a mic? Yeah.
Yeah, so we can share the microphone. 'Cause there's-
Ladies first. Yeah.
Konnichiwa, Tokyo. Konnichiwa, Japan. Hello, world, because I just found out that there are 125 countries represented in Dascoin. And the most important thing, hello to the new world, because you're all revolutionaries. You are the ones who are changing the world. And that's what has attracted me to Dascoin. I'm a venture capitalist, and everything I look at, I analyze. And I look for impact. I look for ecosystem. I look for sustainability and scale. Purpose and profit. And I believe that Dascoin has all these elements. And another thing I look at, and that is the probability of success. And team is incredibly important. And you have here a very amazing team. People who have an incredible track record, people who have a lot of experience, incredible network of connections all over the world. But first of all, you have visionaries who understand that timing is everything. Because when you analyze the reason of success of any venture in the world, you will realize that timing is the key component. And I believe we all here in this room understand that we're at the very beginning of a revolution, which is comparable to what Maria Skłodowska-Curie has done in terms of the world of atom, what Copernicus has done in terms of how we perceive the world. These people have changed the paradigms, and I believe we're changing it as well. I have been a commercial banker and an investment banker, and I know regulations from inside out. I had to take all these exams and learn everything. And I know very well that regulations are not enough. You need much more than that to be able to go to the next stage. And I believe that Dascoin represents democratization and safety at the same time. This is the incredible competitive advantage that Dascoin has. So for all of you that have any trouble in evangelizing the world about Dascoin, I just want to remind you the words of Mahatma Gandhi. First, they ignore you. Then they laugh at you. Then they fight you. And then you win. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Love
So
it. I
beautiful.
like it.
Huh?
So appropriate.
So beautiful.
Wow.
Well, marvelous.
Xin chào, I'm Vietnamese. I'm from Vietnam, and before I say a few words, I'd like to ask you to recognize my Vietnamese delegation led by Mr. Tony Minh here. He's here. And we have, today, we have 50 people. We have 50 people from Vietnam, and Vietnam is a small country with 95 million people, and we have 50 people from Vietnam.
Tony introduced us to Augustine, so thank you, Tony.
Yes.
I have two short stories about myself and why is it I believe in Dascoin. I did my master's degree in 1976, and 76, you know, there was no personal computers. There's big computers. You talk about the CDC, control data, you talk about big IBM computers, and everything we did with programming is a whole bunch of cards that are like thousands and thousands of punch cards, right? Whole punch cards. And we have to carry a big basket of cards to do small programs. And in 1992, you know, the first revolution came in with personal computers. That things changed. And then after that, we have the internet revolution. And here's my story. In 1962 or 63, I was approached by a young salesman. He came to me, he said something like, sir, you want more money? I say, oh, you must be kidding. Yes, I want money, I want more money. I say, you have money in your pocket? I say, yes, I have some. So I pull out like few dollars in my pocket. He said, you want to triple your money? You want more money in your pocket? I say, yes. And he said, give me your cash, give me your money, and then I give you something. So I pull my money, and I don't want to give to him. So I said, give me your money. So no, I say, no way. So I say, give me your money, I give you more money. I say, what? You must be kidding. So he gave me a piece of plastic, I say, here with this plastic card, you can buy things, you can eat lunch, you can do anything you want. Oh, I scratched my head and say, what is he talking about? This must be a magician or somebody who is selling fakes. You know, in 1963, I had my first American Express card. 1963. I had my first American Express. You know how old am I by that, right? I'm 70. Right? So as of today, what do we have? We have Visa card and MasterCards. But in 62, 63, people told me give them the cash, and they give me a plastic card. This was a joke. It's no joke now. So today, when we talk about cryptocurrency or digital money, I don't want to miss the boat. I don't want to, you know, I have to jump on the bandwagon. So when I have a chance to meet Michael Mathias and Terry O'Hearn, and now, you know, you, I want to make sure that we all at the beginning of the digital revolution. And Vietnam government is very keen on that, and the Prime Minister of Vietnam is commissioning a team to do a policy study on cryptocurrency, and I hope that we have a chance to influence the process and bring, you know, Dascoin to Vietnam, and I hope that I will be part of that. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thanks very much to the board.
That was very good.
Yes.
Really.
I just want to say one more thing, which is a quote. Here is to the crazy ones, because only the people who are crazy enough to believe they can change the world are the ones who do. Yeah. So here is to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much.